when you did this whole thing, I mean, when that whole Sachin Vaze episode happened, I was on air with you, with your team, when that team came in to pick you up. And I seriously didn't think that they'll drag you to jail. I thought it's going to stop. It's going to stop now. And, you know, I mean, even your anchors were like, no, it's not stopping, ma'am. It's going to continue. I said, nahi, roke lenge. I didn't believe when I saw those machine gun carrying guys coming and your family out there being pushed and shoved. It was terrifying, at least for viewers. And I had so many people calling me up and said, are you watching? And I said, yes, I'm watching what's happening. It was terrifying. And then they sent you to jail. What was that like, Arnab, that period? I mean, you didn't talk about it for quite some time. You didn't say what you went through. Those jails, Taloja jail and all, it's where terrorists are there. Mafia accused are in that jail. What was it like for a journalist, and an army officer's son? You grew up in cantonments, all that.
No godfathers.
It's a very... That's a period of my life I have not spoken about in detail. What you are asking. I have spoken about the fact that we were right. What we've done is right. There's no backtracking, that we'll be proven correct in the court of law, which we have been. We've spoken about the legal side of it because the charges that were put against us were outrageous. Outrageous. But before I come into what happened in jail, let me ask you today, if the Commissioner of Police of Delhi holds a press conference and says that everything in ANI is the proceeds of crime, and says that there is another news agency I was investigating, I have completed the investigation in 4 hours against that agency. That is a very good agency. This is the bad agency I found out. And we will confiscate the assets, arrest Smita Prakash, arrest the family, lock up this premises. These are the proceeds of crime. And if on that day, outside your house or your home, all of the media in Delhi were to come stand outside and accept the police commissioner's claim and paint you as a financial criminal, how would you respond? And if it so happened, and then my mind thinks, so what you are asking me about the date of my arrest, which I think is the 5th of November 2020.
Yeah.
But what you must, and I would like to tell the viewers of your podcast, they must look at the events that happened a month earlier. In fact, around the 8th of October 2020, exactly a month earlier, Parambir did a press conference in which he said that I was buying the viewership of people of this country by paying them 500 rupees each. And everybody lapped it up. You're the journalist, Ishan. I'll ask you 2 questions. How is it that there were dozens of journalists and camera crew outside my house 2 hours before the press conference?
They're being tipped off.
Of course.
That's question number 1.
Yeah.
How come that commissioner, who now has so many cases against him, he and the entire, they did innumerable interviews on that day.
Yeah.
Right? And the third question, which I want to raise before you is, if a person works hard as a journalist for over 20 years, breaks out from very limited capital, with intense hard work, builds an organization and dreams of scale, as in the clear dream was to build India's largest news organization. With Smita, I want to tell you, Republic is destined to be the largest news organization in India. And through hard work. And if it so happens that as part of that growth story, we launch a Hindi news channel. A Hindi news channel which becomes number 1. Beats everybody hollow through editorial coverage. Right? I am obviously upsetting the apple cart of a lot of media corporate players in Lutyens, Delhi, who have had it too good for too long. But, however, is this the way to fight me?
Yeah.
Is joining hands with politicians I have upset and policemen who have their own axe to grind the way to honestly battle a competitor in a media industry where entrepreneurship should be welcomed. I don't like people who use unfair means to fight me. I very much welcome anybody who battles it out on the basis of stories, coverage, marketing, distribution, anything. But that press conference, by the way, happened a day after we completed 8 weeks as India's leading network in both English and Hindi.
Which in the
history.
Process
No. What I'm trying to say is that by October 2020, Republic had reached a unique position where no media organization in the history of India in print or television has been numero uno in both English and Hindi. Since 1947 to now, name one media organization in India which has held numero uno position in terms of viewership, audience share in English and Hindi. So obviously people saw it as a threat. Now, I'm not suggesting a conspiracy. What I'm saying is that maybe it was a fortuitous turn of events for my enemies who thought that they would join hands together and this is the right moment. You know, the organization and the individual is doing too well. Let's beat him down using a combination of factors. And I think that it is a curse for the Lutyens media that they have chosen unfair means at a time when they should have sharpened their editorial objectives. And their lesson for them forever should be, do not use unfair means to get ahead. Today, Republic is even more powerful and stronger, influential in terms of viewership. We have a destiny ahead of us. What has all this led to? So I wanted to bring you back from the arrest because see what happens, Smita. If I talk about my arrest, what happened to me in jail, what I went through, I will talk about it. I have no problems talking about it, but I want people to understand
the background.
That in this country, when someone from a middle class background aspires for greater dreams, then the existing establishment, which wants the status quo to continue, sharpens their knives and can fight me individually. But they must not join hands with criminals, either in uniform or in politics, because then you are bringing the profession down. It is the biggest blot in the history of Indian media. Smita, I'm not telling us ordinary thing. Forever, for the next 100 years, I hope there will be nothing worse than what happened. It is the biggest blot in the history of Indian media that the media got together with politicians, policemen, murderers and convicts. Look at the people they join hands with. Now they can say we didn't contractually join hands, but they opportunistically did join hands to bring me down and to bring Republic down. Is it not a fact? When I'm saying this today and those people watching it, if they are watching it, can they really look at me eye to eye and say, no, we did not do it?
Yeah.
The fact is they know we did it. Why did you do it? Why could you not work harder? Why could you not have the pulse of the people with you? Why don't you believe in the future of this country like I do? So these are questions. Anyway, that part is over. So what happened to me in November 2020 is extraordinary. Because I'm asking you today, who in the Indian media, which editor-in-chief has gone through what I went through? But the moral of the story is if the idea was to crush me, and to crush me in various ways by physically assaulting me and bringing 111, 120 strong group of people, 100 of them fully armed, 26, 27 of them inside my flat, pushing me with the butt of their weapons, hitting me in the crotch, physically assaulting me, thrashing me through the way, right? Not even letting me wear my shoes, right? Locking me up in the loo of a jail, doing things which are unbelievable. We talk about human rights abuses, I don't talk about it. Shifting me from one jail to the other, dragging me through my hair, right? Unspeakable offenses. Making me open my wounded hand with my own left hand to open my stitched hand, which had 8 stitches on it, right? And making me open my stitches in front of me, which I've said, doing things like that.
Why? What were they planning to do?
And then telling me, why don't you chill out a little bit? We'll chill out. Picking me up from my jail cell at 6 o'clock in the morning. and taking me for quote unquote interrogation for 8 hours, 10 hours.
What do you think this chill out means?
Chill out is that
tone down your editorial.
Tone down.
No, tone down. You at that point in the jail, or you
No,
or your editorial
tone.
of your channel.
No, tone down. Tone down in every way. Obviously, what was this all about? It was an attempt to make me tone down. It was an attempt at getting me on a table to compromise. And I can proudly say that I did not compromise. I did not tone down. I did not seek a rapprochement. Right? I am convinced of what my work is, what my ethics are, what my values are. I didn't tone down. But again, to cut the long story short, and I'll answer your question
but
later.
When he came in, you said that you are Sachin Vaze, aren't you?
No, I knew.
Said,
see, Sachin.
He's a bit of a star at that time.
The fact is that
encounter specialist.
The fact is that, again, not going back to the arrest, but I am going back to what purpose all that served. I am asking today, sitting in your office, what purpose did it serve? What difference did it make? But what I'm saying today
I'm sure
to
they're
you is
asking
different. Is that in the history of independent India, which editor has gone through this? Which editor has gone through this? And I know I was a spectacle for a lot of people in the Lutyens media, but I think they had an opportunity to redeem themselves by raising their voice then. Not that I needed them to. Let me make it very clear. I can fight my own battles. I don't need them. But for themselves, they should have done it. Now, as far as the absolute incident which you are speaking about, which is the moment of the arrest, you have seen about it. You've seen it on television, I'm sure, but you've seen perhaps 1% of it. And when a person goes through in those circumstances, it's an experience. If you want me to detail the experience, I will. Yeah. But it's a different experience. But I would not say that it's a degrading experience.
How can you say that? Your family was also involved.
No, it's not a degrading experience. It's not a degrading experience because it depends on the way you go through the experience. I can tell you, Smita, I went through the experience with absolute dignity. I went through it with dignity, and I don't think you can be degraded if you don't want to. But yes, I have never been to jail before. I have never been shifted in jails before. I have never been treated like a terrorist before. I remember on the day when I was arrested, they created a green corridor from my house in Lower Parel down through to Alibag. And in the middle of traffic, the only thing that was going through in my mind was, what nonsense. Why are they disrupting Mumbai traffic for me? They created a green corridor for the vans. And there were black curtains on the back. I could see beyond that. They created a green corridor of about 50, 60 kilometers so that I could be moved through, right? I could be moved through the traffic. And when I reached Alibag, and I went to the police station, and when I came out, and they said that it's time for you to go to the court because you have to be produced there as a convict, as an accused. I came out of the police station. And I saw that there were dozens of drones flying over the police station. The entire city, the town of Alibag had been cordoned off. And there were drones flying because they were capturing every moment of mine. So I want to know who was getting the CCTV footage of me. They were obviously providing live footage of me to their political masters. And I looked above and I saw the drones, and there were crowds outside, hundreds of people outside. I remember I met Shamu, I met my wife. I asked for her to come and she came forth. But I was shocked that at the level of preparation they had for my arrest.
Did you
It's like they caught Chota Shakil or Dawood Ibrahim.
Yeah.
And brought him in then. It was crazy. I was in, the funny thing is, at that point of time, I was looking at it as a reporter. I put myself in. I said that now let me look at this as a reporter.
That's a reflex action.
That's a reflex action. Yeah. There's this great criminal being caught inside, and the way he's being protected, nobody around. There were 30, 40 people around me, all armed and ready to push me back if I moved a little bit.
Did you fear for your life at that stage? Because, everybody knows that some of them were encounter specialists out there. Did you fear that you could be eliminated at that stage?
See, when all of this stuff is happening, you're not thinking that far. I know that a lot of people were. Now, if I look back, there were so many things which happened, which, it's good I didn't overthink at that moment, because when you're in a jail cell and there are 60, 70 people in the cell with you, and there are about 1,200 very, 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 very hardened criminals sharing the place with you, and there are people from the D gang right next to you and in your cell, and there are people who are there are pedophiles and murderers, and there are people who are deep into narcotics who are with you, and there was the people I exposed for in narcotics were there in the cell next to me, and there were people who had a significant play in the Dawood gang who were made to meet me in jail, and I met them. And when people from the underworld were sent to my cell, and I met them and I spoke to them, and at that moment when you're in that situation, you don't really think, because you're thinking of the next thing. You can't think. When you stand in a phone line and there are 50 people ahead of you, you get 2 minutes to speak to someone. And I always used to call my lawyer, first thing. And, and when I used to speak to my lawyer, there's 5 policemen wanting to hear what I was saying. So when you're going through so much, you're not really thinking, because you're in a cell. You're in a big cell, and there are several cells. So you're in one of the largest of them, and there are too many people. So the only thing that you're thinking about when you're being taken for the interrogation is when this is going to finish, And there are moments when the interrogation is getting too tedious. And these guys, they are having a whale of a time. They're eating in front of you, they are talking in front of you, they're gossiping, and then they're going in and out, and then they are going to the washroom and back, and you're simply going through 3 rounds of interrogation, and it's never ending, and it's really stupid. But you go through it, and at some point of time, you almost feel like, what are these police people doing? And it was seeming to me that they were constantly taking instructions, and there were attempts made to try and break me. You break him, drag the interrogation, make it personal, hit them hard, take him from one place, wake him up at 4 o'clock in the morning, hit him, put him into one cell, take him to another police station, make him stand there at the entrance of the police station, let him be unguarded, all that stuff. But the truth is, I have always, I look at it far removed. I was looking at it from the other perspective, what they are trying to do. And it was apparent to me that it's a very predictable attempt to break me. And those who are trying to do it don't know what stuff I'm made of.
Were you hit?
Pardon me? Oh, of course. Of course. I showed my wounds to the judge. You see, none of all this was ever reported. I asked for physical examination, and I told the lady judge out there, I showed her, I opened my shirt, I lifted my shirt, and I showed my shoulders, and I was totally bruised through and through. Totally bruised through and through. On the way to the police station, out there, I told the cop, this is what I've been through. I've been badly assaulted physically, in the pretext of moving me from one van to the other. I mean, let me be. I am coming into the van with you. There's no need to assault me. The judge sent me for physical examination. I was physically examined. The doctor completely saw that I was bruised, but there was a lot of pressure, I believe, on the doctors then, and they said that I have self-inflicted injuries. Can you beat yourself? Can you bruise yourself right down your spine at the back?
Your hand won't reach.
Yeah. So it's bizarre, but that's what it is.
Did you at that time regret, Arnab, that maybe I shouldn't have, maybe I can compromise? And any point of time did you feel that, nahi karta? My journalism could have been a little less aggressive, maybe, or
absolutely not.
Never.
If you see, if I did not compromise in 2011, when the entire Congress government tried to put pressure on me, when I was the editor of Times Now, then why would I compromise now? This was physical. I have had cabinet ministers warn me personally of consequences. I have written letters back to cabinet ministers describing my phone conversation with them. They have gone complaining to my bosses. This has been the story of my life. So I really don't care about the consequences. Should the consequences go so far? I mean, at one point of time when you're exposed to all kinds of people, when you're in jail, you do think about what's going to happen at night. And so I wouldn't sleep at night. I would just remain awake the whole night. So I remember in my jail cell, I would lie next to the window, and there's a big cell, and there were the bars, and I would keep looking at the ceiling, and anyway I couldn't sleep because there were these gigantic reptiles on the ceiling, which was very high. And I mean, not gigantic reptiles. They were not lizards, but there's some larger form of lizards in different colors. They were on the
That's so
on the
scary,
ceiling.
yeah.
So I my adrenaline was running very high. And
Did you have a mat or a bed, or what was it that you had in the jail cell?
I had a very, very thin mat. That's it. I had a thin mat, and so I would roll that up, and I would then lie down at the end of the day because you're too fatigued. You've come back from interrogation. You don't know what's going on in the outside world. And it's just endless. It's going on. And I thought that they denied police custody for me because the judge realized the first day that this wasn't much of a case. So legally speaking, the judge in the Alibag court denied police custody. It's only accidental that the High Court kept hearing. We have kept going up and down, that it went on endlessly. I'm sure the state government enjoyed it. But I would, as I was saying, when I would come back from there at about 12, 1 o'clock and all, so everybody in the cell would be sleeping, and I would then just look at this. I said I don't want to sleep because what if that falls on me?
Yeah.
So I would not that I would use these excuses to stay awake. So I don't think I slept for 2-3 days actually.
How many people were there in your cell?
Initially about 25, 30. Then there were more brought in. There were 40, 45, 50, maybe 50, 55.
Wow. What an
Good.
experience. But tying it back, coming back, let's go to the motive again. You said...
But I must tell you that I was okay.
Yeah, of course.
I was okay inside the cell. I was okay. I shared my food, and I must tell you that towards the end of my period in jail, I'm not a big fussy eater. I wouldn't eat too much. So they would give 4 rotis each or something. So I would have 1 roti. I would share the rest with the others. So I became quite popular because whatever food I got, I said, let us all eat together. I remember 2 days before my release, 30 of us, I think, in the cell, we made a circle, and we sat and had dinner, and I served them and they served me. So I went and took my food. I had some, and everything else, I gave them dessert of Parle G biscuits. So I was very popular because I was sharing my food. I didn't, I was constantly sort of moving around. So it was fine. I got to meet a lot of people.
And when finally you got bail, what was that like?
They would because I had such long hours of interrogation at that time that even the fellow inmates would feel bad for me because at the end of the day, I'm not a terrorist, I'm not a murderer, I have not committed a capital offense. There is nothing to interrogate me for. So they would feel sorry for me because they would take me early in the morning and they would bring me late at night. So when I would come back by about 8:30 or so, I would go past each cell and they would talk to me, and then somebody would say, we were praying for you. And there was this man, he was a Sufi religious person in one of the cells, and they were praying for me. So when the day of my release, people were clapping in the nearby cells because I would constantly bother them. I would not let the guys sleep on the other side because I had no access to news on what was happening on my case. So I would keep asking the person in the next cell, wo jo TV hai. There was a TV, small TV, about 4 cells away, and I couldn't hear or see. So anybody who would pass that way, I said, please put Republic Bharat, zara batao, kya ho raha hai mere case mein. So after some time, they would pass on the information. Oh, आपका hearing postpone हो गया, आपका कल है, अच्छा नहीं होने वाला. And they would do their own legal interpretation of it. आपका तो हो गया, आप अभी 2 महीने रहोगे, 3 महीने रहोगे, whatever. But we became friendly. So everybody knew about it. So the day I got bail, it became sort of breaking news.
Yeah.
And everybody put on Republic. So everybody was watching Republic Bharat in Taloja Jail in that distant thing. And I got the breaking news from them.
When you came out, Arnab, that huge crowd, did you expect that crowd, that there'd be so many people lining the streets when you got out of jail, when you came out with that fist in the fist bump that you did?
And you can't blame the media because pretty much everyone was there.
Yeah.
Selectively. I'm not the popular person in the media. But be that as it may, I was getting late. And the release order had been signed and we got bail. I was standing there. I was having a casual chat with the jailers. Then somebody said, you should launch a Marathi channel. They were talking to me nicely. I said, yeah, I will. So we were having a pleasant chat. And Shamo came. I came out. And then the tone changed. Because just as I was about to leave, the tone changed. And I remember Shamo said, get into the car. I saw her and she said, get into the car. And so I sat. And then a cop or two wanted to sit in the car. And so she said, you can't sit in the car. I'm taking him home. And they said, no, we're going to sit in the car. And they insisted actually on putting me in a police van and driving me to Vashi. And then one of the cops came and told me that there is a huge crowd outside which is waiting to lynch you. Because you have upset their political favorites. And that mob is waiting to lynch you. Your security is at risk. You will not come out safe. Your life is at risk. We need to take you to Vashi Bridge and then you can go from there whichever you want. So Shamo insisted and I sat in the car and I came out. But the reason I was coming out was because my car had been surrounded by the police and all armed and they were not letting me come out. And I don't think I'm so unpopular that or so hated in this country that people will want to kill me right outside a police station. Right? So I came out and I couldn't believe what I saw. I had written it out many times what I will say when I come out. I used to have a small notebook and I used to sketch the jail cell and I used to sketch things and I used to make notes. So I remember stuff and I remember I would distract myself by thinking of other things and about the television medium stuff and about people I met, the experiences I had. And when I came out, I would often think about what I would say when I came out. But when I came out, I was not being allowed to meet anyone. I was not being allowed to meet my colleagues. My people from my channel were outside. There was a distance kept between me and them, and they just wanted me out from sight. It is as if the Maharashtra government had said, make sure that he doesn't get to talk to the people or talk to the media. So I had a sunroof, so I stood up. And what I saw, Smita, I will never forget in my life, Ishan, because I saw on the other side of the road, because they'd been pushed back and they were like, the policemen were pushing the people back.
Yeah.
And I saw hundreds, thousands of people, what they decided to do at that moment, all of them, maybe they thought in planning, there was no way for them to communicate to me. They switched on the lights on their phones. So all I saw when I came out was just as a sea of spotlights on me. And people were waving it.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a very emotional moment for me. I was, of course, very charged up because it had been a long time. But when I saw that, it was, you don't need to say anything in words. And I remember from there, because I was going to the hospital to get myself bandaged again, because the blood was oozing and it had been bad. I was worried about just getting septic or getting a bad infection because of my wounds, open wounds in jail. And so I was going to the hospital, but I couldn't literally drive because there were hundreds of people following me with their bikes and their cars, and it was very heartwarming. And I realized at that moment that we had won. We had won at that very moment. We did not need, of course, the law and everything will follow, but in your heart, in my heart, I only live, and we all should live only for what the public thinks. And the attempt was then to crush us, and I knew that when I came out, we had won. And that was important for me. It was important for all of us.